Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there, this is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. We seek to transform lives by encouraging and inspiring. So, when you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcast, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. If you're viewing any of the podcasts on YouTube, please subscribe. To supporters of this podcast, we say thank you. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books that can be found on Amazon. I'm available for speaking engagements, in person, and virtual seminars. So please contact me by Facebook, X, and or LinkedIn. I have with me Bob Martin, whose story is extraordinary, entertaining, and fun. From a high powered mob lawyer to a certified mediation teacher, he hundred has helped hundreds redesign their thinking for the life they dream of. Bob's journey is anything but ordinary. He is a published author and professor of wellness at Elon University. I'm excited, very thrilled to have Bob come and share with us on our podcast today. Bob, you're an exciting guest, and I want you to know that we had a little something in common. I am here in North Carolina, not too far from Elon University. I'm here in Durham, North Carolina. And of course, I was a former lawyer, did some CLE for the state bar. And so we kind of got a little something in common. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Bob, and where you are located.
Well, I am located in the town of Elon, which it's funny. It used to be called the town of Elon College at one time when Elon was a college. And then Elon became a university, and the whole town folks had a whole lot of brouhaha went on about what are we going to do about the town name now. But they finally decided that they would just make it simple, just call it Elon. So that's about 45-minute drive from you going west.
Mhm.
And so we're practically neighbors.
That's
Uh,
right. That's
yep.
right. We got a lot to talk about. I was excited with your profile and what you do, where you came from, how you got to where you are. And so we want to talk about that a little bit. So the first thing I want to just ask you, you are both a lawyer and you're a social worker, and you've had unique insights into the human condition. So how do
Mhm.
you integrate principles of resilience and positive psychology into your teaching and counseling practices? Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Sure, of course. Well, a lot of people think that, being a meditation teacher, a therapist, or as a lawyer are so different. But when you stop and think about it for just a moment, you realize that, and as you well know, that we lawyers and therapists both are dealing with people when they're kind of on the edge of their ability to cope with things.
Mhm.
Sometimes people make some bad decisions and get themselves in some trouble, and they are looking for a lawyer to help them out. Especially, of course, I did mostly criminal law, so
Mhm.
I was dealing with people that we might say were at the edge of their existence. And then when people come and they seek out a meditation teacher or a therapist, they're also struggling, with some life issues. And so there's really a similarity that is between them. And then if you ask me how you integrate those,
Mhm.
you know, I guess, all of us, we have our stories. You certainly have your stories and I have mine, and they're each unique.
Mhm.
And the facts can be very, very different, but very often the how or the why of why we get into things and do things is often very common.
Okay.
And just like everyone else, I guess I was brought to a therapist when my life was beginning to fall apart and I wasn't coping well with the personal side of life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny, as you mentioned, I was a mob lawyer and I got to be a mob lawyer because I was a prosecutor first. And we did a big civil case against the cartels in Miami during the cocaine cowboy days, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
days of Scarface and all that. And then when I went out in private practice, they came to see me and basically saying that I was better than the lawyers they had. I was able to beat their lawyers, and so they wanted me to be a lawyer for them. And so I'm professionally, I was respected by the courts. You know, most of the folks in law, most of the folks in Miami, they knew of me. I was in that, I'm not saying I was in the top tier of lawyers, but certainly maybe the second
Mm-hmm.
tier and making a lot of money. I had my house paid off by the time I was 32. But you know, I was hanging out with these guys, and those were those, you know, the 70s, and it was discotheques and cocaine and chrome and glass and partying, and I was doing a little too much of that, and got myself my personal life was falling apart,
Bob,
and I
I hear you. I hear you, and I feel you, and I know where you are, and and I know we could talk about it for the longest, uh,
okay, the longest
but you
time.
got so much to talk about, so I want to kind of
Right, right.
move it along a little bit. Now, with this, one thing I want to talk about is that you've had obviously a successful legal career. You transition from that into mindfulness
Hmm.
advocacy. So I want the listeners to understand, what do you mean when you talk about mindfulness advocacy? What are you talking about?
So, a lot of time people use those words mindfulness and meditation and kind of interchangeably, but I would say it's kind of like this, that you just like you can put a boat on a ship, but you
Okay.
can't put a ship on a boat. And
Okay. I
so
got you.
all meditation is mindfulness, but not necessarily all mindfulness is meditation.
Got you. Okay.
You know,
Okay.
mindfulness, I suppose you could say that mindfulness would be the difference between washing dishes while your mind is kind of going on through a lot of mumbling and grumbling about why, you know, your partner isn't washing the dishes and why
Okay.
you gotta wash the dishes and
Okay.
mumble grumble. Or you could give your full attention to the washing of the dishes and feel the water and feel the soap and
Hmm.
revel in the shining plate and how they stack together so nicely. And so
Okay.
by being fully present with the washing of the dishes, you can actually turn a task that would be mundane and regular to
Hmm.
really extraordinary and wonderful.
Okay.
And so that's mindful, that's mindfulness. You
I,
can make,
I I
yeah.
got you. I got you. So,
And then meditation would
uh
simply be a structured way of developing those skills of mindfulness through a consistent practice.
I got you. I got you. Okay. Very well said. So, in your transitioning from this successful legal career to mindfulness advocacy,
Mhm.
it seemed to be quite a leap. So, what motivated you to make that transition, and how has it affected your perspective on justice and well-being?
So, as I mentioned, things were kind of falling apart personally. I was
Hmm.
seeing a therapist. Well, it just so happens that that therapist wound up being a student and the English language editor for a Shaolin priest from the
Okay.
Kung Fu temple in China. You know,
Hmm.
the Taoist, the Kung Fu, Tai Chi, all that stuff. Master Watching Ni. and he was a 72nd generation master.
Okay.
And so, long story short, through my therapist George, I came to meet Master Nee, and he introduced me to this entire world, of Eastern thinking and meditation and mindfulness and Tai Chi and movement and the forces of nature and going with the flow and gaining mastery of life and the like. And so that was the motivation, that was the push that caused that transformation to come about. And
Okay.
I suppose it was a lot to do with meeting that person, because I'm sure, James, you've met some people that have just bowled you over when you meet
Hmm.
them.
Right.
He was
Right.
one of those kinds of people.
Okay. Okay.
And we asked him why he was called master. And he said, well, and he chuckled a little bit. He laughed. He said, well, because I've gained mastery of life. And
Okay.
and so we said, well, what does that look like? And this is what he said. He said, you have become a master in life when you have found a way to interfere with the natural flow of things to the smallest amount possible and yet have the greatest impact.
Oh, wow. Wow. Bob, that's very profound.
Mm,
I am, I was a sponsor of continuing legal education, ethics, mental health, and substance abuse. So one of the questions that's kind of is interesting when I looked at a little bit of your profile is I note that you is teaching business law and ethics at Elon
mm.
University, and that provides, a platform for influencing future leaders. So how do you incorporate mindfulness and ethical consideration into your curriculum, and what impact do you hope to have on your students? Because I think that's something that listeners would enjoy hearing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, most of the students that I have are in the business school, and they come from parents who want them to go into business, and they're thinking about making tons and oodles of money and
Hmm.
buying their yachts and having all of those trappings.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that those goals aren't good goals, and it's nice, to be wealthy, and I'm not
Hmm.
saying that you shouldn't,
Hmm.
there's anything wrong with that.
Hmm.
But even the research and the science tells us that money can buy happiness up
Hmm.
to a point.
Hmm.
If when it comes to having your next meal, having a roof over your head, yes, money can buy happiness. But after a certain point, it really can't. And
Okay.
that happiness really needs to come from somewhere inside,
Hmm.
where you can live a life where you don't have regrets. You can live a life where you can befriend your faults, where you don't have to pretend to be something you're not, because you can say to folks, I am what I am and I is what I is, and I'm Popeye the Sailor Man, take me or leave me.
Hmm.
When you can live your life openly like that without any artifice or without any sense that you're covering something up, then you can live a happy life. And whether you're immensely wealthy or, you're not,
Well said.
it makes very little difference.
Well said. I hear you very, very well. Um, I'm constantly on podcasts of people who want to interview me, even though I have a podcast myself. And one of the things they always ask me is if I had to give some advice to somebody, what would I say? And I have a whole list of things that I say, that I would tell them. But I said if I had to just give it a distinct phrase, I would say stay focused and stay ethical. What's your thoughts about that? How do you feel about that? Dealing with ethics at your school. What I just said. Do you have anything that you can share
Yeah,
along that line?
yeah, yeah. We teach people to be ethicals, and we hope that it's going to make them a better person.
Hmm.
But I don't think that the if you teach ethics to make a person better, it's not that it's not that as effective as it
Okay.
could be.
Okay.
Nor if you're doing it to make the world a better place. But if you teach somebody ethics so that they'll be a happy person,
Okay.
they will become a better person and the world will become a better place. But that's just a side effect.
Hmm.
The main thing is that you want to be happy.
Okay.
It's
I hear you.
that simple.
I hear
And
you.
if I'm ethical and I have integrity and I do what I say I'm going to do, or I tell somebody that I'm not going to be able to do it.
Hmm.
But if I'm just real and I don't have to worry about being whacked upside the head by something I didn't think about or remembering something that I said wasn't true and trying to keep all those lies in order, if I don't have all that energy and that holding up of the shield in my life,
Hmm.
um, the only way I can really do that is by leading an ethical, authentic, and honest life. So
Okay.
it's all about being happy.
I got you. I got you. Bob, um, obviously, you may not know this, but I just retired about 2 years ago as a pastor of church in Durham County,
Hmm.
where I pastored for 32 years. And I started this podcast basically because I wanted to continue to encourage, inspire, and hopefully transform some lives. And I've had some, I mean, fantastic. Yes, you're one of those people
Well, thank you.
today. So, uh, if there are folk who are listeners who have some challenges like you've had, and you have acknowledged it, uh, and they seem to be in a pit, what would you say to them that would be encouraging, inspiring, and hopefully transforming? That will make a difference in their lives.
Yeah.
Is there a word?
Um, I would say in just a word, don't take yourself so seriously.
I like that. I
And
like that.
matter of fact, if you really think about it, you're pretty darn insignificant.
Mm,
I mean, you're one person living in one home, in one town, in one country, on one planet, in one solar system, in this huge array of the universe. And compared to universal time, your time spent on this planet is a second. It's not, it's a microsecond.
mm,
So don't take yourself so seriously.
mhm.
Um, it's that like the name of the book,
I
don't
got you.
sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff.
I
And
got you.
once we cannot take ourselves so seriously and we can add a little humor into our lives and maybe even giggle a little bit about the craziness that we human beings are. And we are, we're just nuts and our thoughts are nuts, and we just can have a little fun with it.
Okay.
Then we have the breathing space to look at the significant and the serious changes that we might want to make.
Okay. Well
We,
said.
we we have to
Well,
create that breathing space. And the only other thing I'd say is a lot of people look at change and they think of change as being something big. Like,
mhm,
it's like, okay, I want to learn to play tennis. But I could never learn to play tennis. Look at those people. They're playing tennis and they're doing all that. No, but you know what I could learn? I could learn how to hold a racket,
okay.
right?
Hmm.
I could learn how to swing a forearm. I
Hmm.
could learn that.
Okay.
Then maybe tomorrow I can learn a backhand. Then maybe tomorrow I can learn how to watch a ball. So learning something and taking changes and making big changes is really just a series of very small little steps,
I got you. I hear
you
you very
know?
well. Hear you very well. Listeners, don't go any place. We got a couple more questions that we want to ask of Bob. But before we do that, listener, I want Bob to share with you how you can get his books. I want him to give you the name of them and where you can get them, and also how you can contact him if you want to know more information. So, Bob, would you do that for listeners at this time?
And I do want to say that if you do want to contact me or send me an email or set up a 5 or 10 or 15 minute conversation with me, I am more than happy and open to do that. The way that you can get in touch with me is on my website, which is a wiseandhappylife.com.
Hmm, I
And
like.
I've got a couple of free ebooks that I've written that are available for free downloads. I've got a lot of resources. Of course, I teach classes, and if you're interested in taking my class, we can talk more about that. Or if you just want to chat, just hit that little contact button and send me an email.
Well
A
said.
wiseandhappylife.com.
Okay. And your books, give them the title of your books.
So I've written two books. One of them's a novel. It's a story about our world as it is today. And I wonder what would happen. You were a pastor, so it's kind of like it would be an interesting question.
Mhm.
What if God made himself known
Okay.
as a reality? Would it change the world? And how
Mm,
would people be affected?
mm,
So I bring God down in the ticker tape at the bottom of your television screen, leaving messages, and then see how the world changes.
mm.
The other one, that's called Children of Abraham. And That's going to be published by Innovative Inc., and it'll be out in March. And
Okay.
then the other book is nonfiction, and it is a Taoist, Eastern, like Buddhist, Taoist, uh, Christian merging together into a devotional.
Okay.
I take Eastern and Western thought and
Mhm.
put them together into a single devotional.
Mm, mm. Wow. Well said. Thank you so very much for sharing that. I
Mhm.
take it just from what you just said, you do have a diverse spiritual background.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
okay. So how did this influence the themes and messages in your books?
Well, the main thing that came about was I grew up with folks whose ancestors were all wiped out either by the Bolsheviks or the Nazis. So
Okay.
they just couldn't believe that there would be a live it loving God. So religion wasn't a part of my upbringing at all. I didn't get introduced to it until my therapist introduced me to Master Ni. So the first thing that I had was a kind of Taoist, Buddhist, Eastern teaching. Then I went ahead and I married a Southern Baptist Bible literalist
Okay.
who was very unhappy because she said she loved me so much and was sad that I wasn't going to go to heaven with her because I hadn't been saved. Uh,
I got you.
And I told her that I was sad that she wasn't going to be reincarnated with me, and she slapped me when I said that.
Mm,
So, but we talked a lot about our different belief systems, and we found that our values of wanting to ease suffering, of
mhm,
helping people out, of t taking care of the least of these,
mhm.
as the Lord Jesus said, we found that that was the major motivator in our lives. And we said, well, how can that be if we both believe that that's the path to happiness if we come from such different backgrounds? And so we started comparing them. And that led me to understanding much more about Christianity and her understanding much more about my belief systems. And then we found a very broad-based, progressive Christian church, United Church of Christ,
Mhm.
that was big enough to take both of us.
Okay. Makes sense.
And so now we found a spiritual home that we both attend, and we're very happy there.
I love that. I love that. That's uh, really, really uh, saying something for the two of you. I think that's awesome. Um, Let me ask you this, and we'll bring this to a close. With your extensive, background in criminal defense and obviously social work, how do you approach, issues of justice and equity in today's society, especially in systemic challenges and marginalized community? Yeah, that's something that, I'm constantly thinking about
Yeah,
how you deal with that. So, okay,
especially today,
yeah,
these
could you, yeah,
days. I
mm,
mean, the
could,
political situation as it these days.
mm-hmm,
So I think that I deal with that by always reminding myself
mm-hmm,
and those, around me that uh, I am not going to be able to cure the world or save the world,
okay,
but I can make a difference in my little corner of it. And
okay,
so if I can make a little difference here and a little bit difference there, then that's what I can do. And I always go back to that old serenity prayer. And a lot of people, they think that give me the serenity to accept the things I can to accept the things I can't change and the strength to change the things I can. They think that's the important part.
mm-hmm,
But that to me is not the important part. The important part is the wisdom to know the difference,
okay,
right?
I
The
agree.
wisdom to know
I
the
hear.
difference because you're not going to be a very happy person if you feel like you can go out and change the world.
Mm, I got
So, but if I feel like I can go out and I'll give you just an example. I have a friend who likes to write and he wants to write more.
it. Mm-hmm,
And so I'm a writer. I do writing. So I said, let's write something together. Let's do a blog together. Now, I didn't need to spend time on doing the blog with him, but I knew that by doing it together, it would help him become a writer. And
mm,
so I could give a little of myself, a little of my time to do that. And then through that, he has written some really beautiful things and has made a difference in other people's lives. And so it's like little ripples in a stream. You
mm-hmm.
make a little difference here and it goes out and it goes out.
Mm.
And and that's all
Wow.
you can do. That's
Well
all you
said. Well said. Well said. Well, my last question to you, because this is something that I see coming, and so I wanted to ask you this. Looking ahead, what are your aspirations for the future of mindfulness education, as you talk about it, advocacy? Both within academia and in broader society, and how do you envision your role in developing in this landscape?
do.
Talk about that just a little bit for us.
Yeah. So years ago, people thought jogging was silly. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, the people that first started going out and jogging, well,
Yeah.
that's silly. You go out every morning, and they didn't think that. And well, now, of course, jogging is a very well accepted, and it's a mainstream,
Right.
health.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, my hope, my dream is that meditation is like now in those first stages of jogging. People think it's a little weird and that
Okay.
when you do it, but I think that over time people understand more about what it is and what it's not, that it'll become just a mainstream thing.
Hmm.
I mean, they teach us so much in school. They teach us
Hmm.
civics and they teach us quantum physics and they teach us all that, but they don't give us an operating manual on how to be a human being.
Hmm.
And that's what meditation really is.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. I love that. Bob, you've been exciting. I've truly enjoyed our conversation. It's been enlightening, and again, I want to thank you for sharing on the Deal by Me podcast. And you
and I
know,
thank you for
yeah,
having me.
you've been an awesome guest, and I do appreciate it. And there you have it, Bob Martin, sharing with us today. And until next time, peace and blessings. be with each of you.